All right. Well, Robin, super excited to have some time with you today to talk about some topics. And I know you're coming from experience and background of just cybersecurity, and also you have some exciting transition that you're focused on and more of the cyber psychology of things, which is really cool. But I really just wanted to, well, first off, did we do a little intro, talk about your
Oh,
background? And then
yeah.
the question I would love to ask, because I just don't know this, and I think a lot of people are really focused on this now, is the security impacts when we look at AI automation, AI agents, companies just opening up their doors to let their teams without a strategy just willy-nilly put in customer information. I mean, you hear about the nightmare stories, right? Of like, oh, I just
Mhm.
searched on my competitors' price lists and they're all out there. So anyway, Robin, great to have you.
Hi, Lee. Thanks. This has been a
Yeah.
long time coming, chatting about getting together and having this conversation. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of a background, I've done IT and cybersecurity for the last 20 years,
Oh, wow.
saying that out loud. Um,
Yeah.
and I am busy currently just looking at the cyber psychology side of things. So more of how technology impacts the way that impacts our brains and the way that we think and react and do things online and how we engage with tech. And you are absolutely right. This whole AI boom is I've been loving the type of content and the data that's been thrown out there, because there's this whole thing about AI is happening, AI is here to stay. Um, but I feel like we're kind of going into it blind,
Okay.
because to a certain extent, I mean, there is, yes, AI is here, and it's either we jump on the bandwagon or we get left behind. And, you know, that's how life is, right? You have to evolve with what's out there. But in the same breath, I think a lot of times we are looking at it from a security point of view, especially if something is like a lot of these AI bots, they're free.
Yeah.
And when something is free, I ask, how are you making your money?
Yes.
Right? And so I always say, if it's free, you're the product, right? So at
Yeah.
some point, yes, they'll probably eventually start to monetize things like we've seen Open AI do with ChatGPT, where they
Mhm.
moved from being freeware essentially to being, no longer open source.
Yeah.
So so you're looking at it that way. And what they're doing is then everything that you put in there, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to use, and it has all of these possibilities and all of these, it there's just so much that we can do with it. But then you
Yeah.
have people copying and pasting direct private proprietary information in there, and those companies are using it to train their bots.
Yes.
And so those are things that you have to look at, and those are things that we need to take into consideration. We also
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to have, for me, it's the focus on actually training the end user and training the person at the end of the day to actually understand what they're using, how to use it, and where it's beneficial for both parties,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Well, and yeah, and that's great. And let me ask you a question there, because I think so. As I've been thinking about the AI and how we blend teams and how we look at building the new team of the future or new company of the future, because there are companies out there that are starting with one or two founders and they're already generating a
Yeah.
couple of million in ARR just with two founders and a lot of AI agents. What is from your experience in being in the space for 20 years? Are you seeing some of the best practices that, I mean, they're even more valuable now than ever before, and we need to make sure we figure out how to blend those best practices into this new future that we're
I
building?
I think our best practices as they were is going to have to adapt and evolve, obviously, with the change in this. Um, and I think they're going to be very important. They're going to be vital, especially from compliance point of view. Within businesses, you're going to have to understand that in order, because everybody's selling it, in order for you to have one step up on the next person, you need to use AI, right? But where is that line being blurred? And if everybody has a if especially within businesses and the way that we're doing it in teams, I think that we need to have a clear line in the sand to understand what are we using, what are we sharing, and are we using our private accounts to do it? Are we using a business account to do it? Because if we're using our private accounts to do it and we're getting hacked, because hello, social engineering, what are we going to do in that regard? And I mean, these bots are being used by social engineers. So are we using bots that we know for certain they are legitimate? For instance, like your Gemini, like your OpenAI, these are companies that we know are doing, they're creating these bots, and we understand that
ones you can trust.
But these days, anyone can create one.
Yes. No, it's super easy. I know I've got one that I built myself. I do think, sorry, go ahead.
No. Carry on.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I mean, I think, I think everyone's been so excited to use the tools. I mean, they're amazing. I use a whole bunch of models every day. It's making just my life easier for just research and things like that. But I do think, within an organization, it's like, what would be some of the recommendations that you would have for a company or a team that's like, man, we'd really like to start. We don't know where to start. Which teams in the organization should you work with? What are some of your recommendations?
I think you can absolutely use it. I think that it, like you said, you use it every day. I use it every day. Yeah. It is fascinating. I mean, AI is a new toy, right? For the geeks in the room. It's a new toy. We all want to play with it. We all want to see how it works. But if you are having somebody that's maybe not necessarily tech savvy, that is getting involved in all this, I think your teams, like your security team, your governance and compliance teams, your risk management teams, your legal teams need to think about it from a legalities point of view. What are we sharing with a third party that's not necessarily an approved vendor? So what are we sharing? And how much do we know about what they're using out of it? So those are things that I would look at. And you know what? There are ways and means to incorporate it within your business. I mean, there is, what is Microsoft's version called again?
Copilot.
Copilot, right? So if you decide within your organization that you want to use Copilot, you can use it. But I found the other day that there's certain ways that you obviously need to configure it, because otherwise you can also run a search for, anything within the organization. So you need to make sure that that is locked down properly, that these are the things that people can use, and these are the things that people have access to. So it'll be, I think, ultimately, it'll depend on the same type of user access management that we would use for everything else, right? What do you need to have access to, and because this is also going to be a case of it's machine learning, right? So they learn from what we put in. So we need to make sure what we're putting in from an organization's point of view is not just trash, but it's something that
good data. I mean, even always you have more data.
That out, right?
100%. So, and it does seem like, just kind of watching what's happening in the land grab, I mean, if you look at the timeline of how fast things have changed, I mean, just 2 years ago we had 2 or 3 models. Now we have over 10. And it does look like OpenAI, Anthropic, we've got Google, you've got Microsoft. It does seem like there is a land grab to go after business, right? Being able to say that I just read that OpenAI and Anthropic are both gaining access to OneDrive and Google Drive. So they're going to be able to be a central application for your whole business. So it does kind of seem like, I'd love your opinion on this, that maybe I felt like Microsoft was a little slow to the game, but they've kind of, I think most people are still, 80% of the world is still kind of running on Microsoft and using their email every day. So what's your take just on the models and maybe the security aspect of it?
I think it's been interesting to watch this whole thing unfold, because on the one hand, you can say, yes, they've been behind. On the other hand, they've been watching people, other companies make mistakes, you know?
Yep.
So those are things that you can look at. So are they falling behind? But the other thing for me is, and I don't know what your view on this one is, but there's not a lot of transparency at the moment. And I get it from a building a business point of view. They want to get ahead of the competitors as much as possible. But at what cost?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing? There's not a lot of transparency. There isn't a lot of regulations in place, you know. So I think we're kind of watching this whole thing unfold in real time.
Yeah.
And I sent you that link the other day with that talk by the CEO. And what's the guy's name? Ben, I think. Ben Weinstein, Dr. Ben Weinstein.
Yes, I think that was it,
Evolutionary biologist. And I really liked his take on it.
Yeah.
Because that, I mean, as in, I was listening to everybody and they go, okay, if things can be automated, chances are their job's not going to be around, right?
Yeah.
And this is where it comes in, where we're going to have to evolve and we're going to have to grow, and either work with it or fall behind.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is a case of, it's us versus the machine. It is going to be a case of us having to work with the machine.
Yes.
But it is where, like I said, there's not a lot of transparency, and this thing is evolving at a rapid pace. And I am curious, and the reason Dr. Brett piqued my interest is because he's looking at this as a whole new life form, and what do we know? Where is it going? And I'm not doing the doom and gloom thing. I mean, but I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody now is saying AGI is 2027. So when we have this transition point with an AI agent that actually, it's going to be crazy to actually have to deal with some of the rules. And I think that's the thing too, is we're changing so fast that we can't write the playbooks and the rules and the security and the legal ramifications around what it is.
Again, it's not transparent enough for us to be able to start looking at, I mean, when we're looking at rules and regulations and all of those things, what are we trying to police? Because we don't know. We don't have everything available to us. What we know is what the big tech companies are telling us, right? And they're going to tell us whatever sells their product.
Yes. Yeah. I have really appreciated, I've been following Anthropic, and it does seem like they are really trying to be more transparent than the rest, and they're really sharing. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking on Hard Fork, and they were talking to the chief technical officer and kind of talking about and they share all their beta, all their testing models, and they were talking about one scenario where the AI agent had information. They're working with a developer. The AI agent knew the developer was having an affair, and they put the agent into a situation where it was trying to blackmail the developer, because the developer was trying to do something not good with the product, because I think of another situation. Anyway, the agent was like, I'm going to tell everyone about your affair. You can't do what you're trying to do. But, it was interesting just to hear that go, okay. So
again, you hear all of these stories, right? About, look, these things are trained to recognize patterns, right? So he's probably typing in stuff in his AI bot thinking, am I getting flowers for my girlfriend or other partner, or am I doing it for both my wife and her, so I don't feel too bad? So so these things are designed to recognize patterns, and especially this is where they become really beneficial from a cybersecurity point of view when we start looking at using them in pattern recognition for security,
Yeah.
right? When we're looking
Yeah, I
at,
guess let me ask you on the positive side, like,
yeah,
I mean, we can put now AI security agents to help reduce the number of fraud, the number of impacts on a company's data breach. I mean, it can be eyes 24/7. That
yeah,
could be amazing.
and it is amazing. It is being built into it. That's why I said I don't want to be all doom and
Yeah.
gloom. I think that we need to be aware of both aspects of it.
Yeah.
But it's incredible what it's doing in security, because it's able to recognize patterns. So this is where, now from a cyber psychology point of view, we look at people's behavior and all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
would that person normally, attempt to gain access to this one thing? Is that a normal thing for them to do? Is it out of the ordinary? Maybe they clicked on it by accident, but from what we know about how this person behaves,
Yeah.
is the ordinary. And then that way we can train those bots that are
Yeah.
sitting in the back end to pick up these things and go like, whoa, that's not normal for Tom
Yeah.
to do, right?
Yeah. Flag and
And
escalate.
eh?
Flag
and,
and escalate. And then, yeah.
and also when it comes to like phishing, right? It can start looking, because that's what traditionally when there's a phishing attack and they're trying to trace it, they're
Yeah.
going to try to figure out where it came from and all of those things from a traditional security point of view. Cyber psychology is going to look at how it was written. How
Okay.
was it written? What kind of person is this? Is this person only, performing attacks during a certain period of time? Because that can tell us either if they're in the, different time zone, do they have a job type of thing
Yeah.
where they can only start doing these things during
Yeah.
certain times. And
That's going to be great.
are they someone that's looking for instant gratification? Is it an urgency type of vibe, or are they more sophisticated and they're kind of more playing the long game?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Let me ask you
yeah.
just about because I know you're just about to get your master's in cyber psychology, which is super cool. Congratulations. How do you see roles like a cyber psychologist being able to be part of maybe larger organizations because of the impact of bringing in all these models across all these different teams and trying to have some type of awareness on maybe the impact to the human in the organization?
I think the role of a cyber psychologist is going to become more profound and like more visible. I think it's not something that a lot of people are aware of.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah. No, it's new for me.
not is aware of it, and it is a matter of, because we are going, look at, in the past it's been man and machine, as in this is a device, it's something that I use, it's a tool, right? But the way that things are evolving, especially with AI, it's more of a symbiosis. We're working together.
Yeah.
If you look at the type, I'm going to use this between everybody, is the relationships that we're building with these bots, right?
Yeah.
And that understanding, and especially if you're looking from a security point of view, you're going to look at the social engineering aspect of things and making sure that people actually understand what they're looking for. You're going to have to look at the mental well-being of your staff. If something like this does happen, what are the implications of it? Is
Let me ask you a question right there. Do you think you're going to have to monitor the mental health of the AI agents?
That is an interesting question, because if you look at where we're saying where Dr. Ben was saying it's an organism, this unknown new organism.
Yeah.
Where is it going? How is it evolving? And I was in a lecture a while ago, and it was a robotics lecture, and they were saying when they're training these bots, it's like talking to a little child. It's a child that's learning from you. And I think I'm trying to remember the age. I think it was between 2 and 5 years old, where they kind of put the age of
Okay.
the mental age of of the AI, of the bots, and how they're teaching them. And I watched it, and they these the research that they're doing, and they have these big eyes, and you kind of feel for them when they're trying to figure something out.
Yeah.
The Is it going to be like the series Humans? I don't know if you've seen it, the British series Humans.
I have not. I think I watched one episode. Yeah.
Yeah, is it going to be like that? Well, um, I read something the other day that I'm not sure whether or not it's considered interesting, scary, or a little off.
Yes.
But there is a brothel in I think it's Germany,
Okay.
that using full bots with like their personalities for
Okay.
and you in there, and it
Sex trade.
actually, yeah, and it reminded me of in the episode within Humans where the bot was actually traumatized by all of the stuff going on.
Wow. Okay.
And you think about these things, and these are all things that you kind of have to. This is where the ethical side of it comes in, right?
Yeah.
Where's the line? What are we going to do? Are we still seeing it as it is just a machine,
Yeah.
or are we looking at it as the fact that that thing got started up a year ago?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
effectively a toddler,
Yeah. Well, it's
So
crazy, and I'm way into sci-fi and followed all the standard writers, and there's always this dystopian science fiction in the future, and then there's this shift in the AI or robots or whatever turn on us, and it is interesting to think about. I mean, there'll be a time, and whether it's 2027 or 2030, that we have the AGI point, and we'll have this ability to have cognitive realization of presence. And yeah, it'll be very fun to see
yeah,
what happens.
I think it's going to be one of those cases like, will we be assimilated by the Borg,
Yeah,
or it
I
is.
don't like that one. I like the more, I want my own Jarvis, and I want my own, like, I want it to be a lot smarter, because it is very frustrating. I know I just spent the last couple
I
of months building an application with an AI agent, and it's exactly what you said. It's like working with a 5-year-old, and I just randomly, it'll do stuff like, I decided to change colors on this page over here that we worked on 2 weeks ago. I'm like, no, God,
Yeah,
please.
look, I like when you've got a toddler in your house going, I colored it for you. It
Yeah, on
didn't.
your wall.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
So that, and I mean, everybody wants a Jarvis, right?
Yeah.
I would love a Jarvis. That would be so cool. But I think that is I think this is the kind of the cusp that we're sitting on. Which way is it going to go, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which way is it going to go? I still like to, even though I know I've sounded a little dark and twisted about the whole situation, I'd still like to believe that it has absolutely immense benefits to us. I think it's going to be a case of making sure everybody's educated,
Yeah.
to know
And
what it's actually being used.
yeah.
And we also have to learn, like, again, these things pick up on our own biases as
Yeah.
well. So those are things that we need to take into consideration. You don't want to teach it, to be intolerant of,
Yeah. And that's, that is the scary side of it. I mean, humans in their natures can be amazingly awesome and supportive, and they also can be the darkest and most negative, experiences out there. So
and it can be the most advanced companies as well. And these things, we've seen it in the news where they go, oh, sorry, we had to take our AI offline because
yeah,
it went in a direction that we weren't quite ready
we're
for.
ready for it. Yeah, no.
Uh,
Well, Robin, I think just in closing, I mean, first off, this has been awesome to talk to you about this, because it is a subject that I'm hadn't heard much about, but I think it becomes more relevant when we start thinking about human and AI working together. But then also the idea, I think, is a good one, and we'll have to see what happens, is will roles like yours have to be managing human and AI person, psychology and health and mental health, because I think it is going to be something that is relevant, right?
I actually had a question the other day that said, so will you like be a therapist? And it was in line with what you said with the mental health, and someone said, so are you going to have to like talk to my phone about its feelings? Like, and I'm like, well, stop being mean to your phone, so
right?
sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think like the number one use case, if I'm not mistaken, still the number one use case for kind of chat, GPTs and making personal is therapist and, being able to talk to somebody, which, not to replace human to human contact, but to be able to have someone to just talk your problems through, I think is pretty amazing. And so, I think
I actually looked at it the other day, and it is because I was trying to be less negative about the world type of thing, and I was and I was looking at the benefits of it, because we often, like, especially like somebody like me, where we're looking at this whole thing, and from a security point of view, your brain automatically goes, okay, what can go wrong?
negative.
Right?
Yeah.
The security aspect of it goes, what can go wrong? And I was like, okay, take a step back. Let's not just look at what can go wrong. And these AI health bots that are out there, I mean, imagine for someone that is in the middle of nowhere or in a dark space and it's the middle of the night, and they just need to, bounce something off of someone, but there's no one there.
Yeah.
This can absolutely be a lifeline.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a replacement for traditional therapists at all. I don't think it can always pick up on those nuances, or when we're changing in our behavior. Not always. And the things where a person is going to pick up on your body language, on the way that you're speaking, but can it work with it in tandem? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's definitely going to be a bridge. And I think more and more people are using it. I mean, how often do people use apps, right, to help them sleep, or, or just take
track your water or food, or
or those moments of mindfulness where you just kind of need to pause, and where it takes you through a breathing exercise. And that breathing exercise can be the difference between you yelling at somebody and just taking a moment and going, okay, cool, let's have a civil conversation and let's address the issue.
It's good, Robin. I think this is great. I think one, thank you for sharing your insights and your take, and I'm super excited for you to get your master's completed. It's